Hi, everyone. I'm with Amy. Amy's super active on Instagram, so I'm going to give her that shout out right now. Amy underscore does underscore TSW. We're going to talk all things eczema, TSW, and Amy's life pre and now post cap treatment. So, Amy,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I am 2 years TSW. I've been in Thailand since January. By the time I go home, I would have had 18 cap sessions. Before TSW, I was very sporty, very active, very social. I was probably going out drinking a lot, lots of partying, and I don't think I've touched alcohol now for a very long while. So I've had a complete shift in myself. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's better for my skin. I've now got it under control. So, yes. And
We're going to put up a bunch of photos of your pre cap. And, this conversation with you is not just like, okay, cap, but it's also everything you've sort of learned as
mm,
you've gone through the journey. So, Amy, let's talk a little bit about your steroid usage history,
okay.
but also like when did you start using steroids? Were you kind of diagnosed with eczema as a kid, or how did that work?
Yeah, so I had eczema as a child, and my mum would use minimal steroids on me growing up. I actually outgrew my eczema when I was probably 14, 15. Didn't have any problems with my skin. I was doing all the teenage stuff. I was being able to fake tan. I was being able to use products that I would not even dream of using now. And then when I hit probably 21, I had the hormonal implant taken out and I had a full body rash from the implant. I went to my GP who prescribed prednisone and mometasone ointment straight off the bat. And I used it. And when I stopped using it, the rash came back. It came back every month. I didn't know at the time that it was linked to my hormones, and the doctor just kept prescribing more and more and more and more steroids. And then in October 2021, I was hospitalized with CMV, which is cytomegalovirus, which is actually quite a common virus for, I don't know if many people know this, but it's quite common. People don't normally show symptoms. It's a bit like chickenpox. But I was really ill with it for 2 weeks in hospital, which is not a normal thing. So I was using a lot of steroids. And looking back on it, it was probably down to the steroids that I was so ill with it. During my time in the hospital, the doctors prescribed more prednisone, and I also was prescribed Protopic. From that point on, I was showing signs of topical steroid addiction, and then I stopped all steroids in April 2022 and went straight into TSW.
So you talked about ointments, you talked about the different steroid creams that you used,
Yeah.
rather, ointments. You talked about Protopic, you talked about prednisone. How does that all come together in terms of how much steroids you've used over the years? And you're how
Um,
old now?
I'm 25
Okay.
and I've used 1 kilogram of steroids in my life
Mhm.
and only one tube, so 30 grams of Protopic.
So what is that to like the people that are watching? Why does the amount matter? Why does the potency of
Mm.
the drug matter? And what does this say about your skin condition post cap and like the healing
Yeah.
element of it?
So I think it's important to note steroids are immunosuppressant. So when I had the hormonal rash, my body was telling me there's something wrong and fluctuating within my hormones. In terms of the amount that I used, it is a big amount, and the potency with ointments is that the body is soaking it up a lot more in the bloodstream a lot quicker, and it was just flooding my body, and it was just ruining my defense mechanisms basically on my skin, so that when I was exposed to normal everyday things, my body couldn't handle it, and then I just went into flaring and then into the withdrawal. Steroids mimic natural processes in the body, so when I stopped those steroids, my body then couldn't necessarily function in the way that it could before, because those steroids had been doing it for me and they were no longer in my body.
So you start withdrawal. What were the symptoms that you felt?
Yeah, so I was bright red. It felt like burning. I was swollen. I was oozy. My hair was falling out. I didn't have a period for the first 17 months of my TSW journey. I
That's really fascinating. I've not heard that one
Yeah,
before.
I really had issues. I don't know whether because the reason why I went on steroids was hormone related.
Right.
And because of that hormonal rash, so my hormones were already all over the place, and the steroids obviously did something with that, because steroids are cortisol, mimic the cortisol hormone in the body, and I think it just went
Fascinating.
crazy.
Some scientist out there needs to look into that specifically, because 17 months of not having your period once you stop steroids, that's something we need to look into.
Yeah.
But sorry, back to you.
No. Hair loss, I had at different times. I had no appetite. Sometimes I had a full appetite. Sometimes I would eat and feel really nauseous. I was feeling cold all the time. I remember vividly in the UK, it was like 30 degrees in the summer, and I was wrapped up inside with 3 blankets, hot water bottle. I couldn't thermoregulate. I couldn't sleep. My insomnia was just absolutely crazy. I was
These
depressed.
things are so relatable,
Yeah.
especially the being cold.
Yeah,
I was always cold. I'm still cold, but I was always cold. And the hot water bottle would be the only thing that would give me some kind of solace, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so you decide you want to venture into cap therapy. Let's say I'm gonna ask you a question. If you hadn't come here and you hadn't done cap, like talk to me about what that road would have looked like for you.
I don't know what that road would look like. Before I came here, I was very depressed. I thought there wasn't any hope. Personally, I was in Australia on my own. Well, I had my sister there, but she has a partner. I felt completely on my own. I was isolated. I was ringing my mum every day, and it was just, I was at a loss. And there was nothing else more for me to lose than come and give cap a go. I saw it on social media, and yeah.
So for you, it was like, I got to do this, and you needed it to get to the other side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I had a stage when I was in Australia when I had a really, really bad flare. And I went to see a dermatologist in Australia who told me that she couldn't treat me unless I accepted steroids, because I actually went there with the intention to try and get cyclosporin or another immunosuppressant to try and help me along the way. And she wouldn't prescribe me those immunosuppressants without giving me a lot of steroids to trial beforehand, and I was not happy doing that. So I felt there was nothing else left for me to try, and I couldn't carry on the way I was going. So cap was
What's
my
your
journey.
what's your message to dermatologists like that?
I think that there are other ways. Well, there are other ways. There's not I think about it. There are other ways, and there was medical negligence in that appointment. There was no patient care there. And as a doctor, you have a responsibility for your patient.
Thank you. Can you tell me? We're going to talk about cap and like what you learned while you're here, because I'm sure you have a lot of like nuggets for people that are watching. But you're going home. You're going home in a few
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's 2 more cap treatments,
Yep.
and that brings you up to, remind everybody,
18 cap treatments.
18 treatments at 1 kg of steroids at potency 3 approximately. So do you think that's enough cap treatment? Are you nervous? What are you nervous about when you go home?
I am so nervous about going home. When I left my home, I didn't think I was going back. So I sold my car, I shipped off all my stuff. I don't have anything there. I am nervous to go back to move in with my family to begin with. It's going to be a full house. And although I can control my environment, I can't control the communal environment that I will be living in. My main concern was living with 3 dogs, because as I was leaving the UK last year, I was starting to develop a pseudo allergy to dogs. And it's been really stressing me out. I've actually been having nightmares about it. But I recently went to a dog cafe in a controlled environment just to see what it was, how I was going to react to try and ease my nerves in going home, and I didn't react. So, yeah.
What do you think that tells you about your body and what's kind of happened? Because I had similar experiences. You know, I stopped the steroids. I was triggered by so many things from an intolerance perspective and from an allergen perspective. And now I'm sort of starting to see like, okay, cashew milk didn't put me into a total allergic reaction.
Yeah.
You know, whereas in the past it would have. So I'd be curious.
I think it tells you that your body's not as inflamed or in fight or flight mode anymore.
Love it.
Because, yeah.
Just as simple as that, really.
Yeah,
I guess.
literally.
Okay, so tell me about CAP. You get here. What state were you in?
I wasn't in my worst state that I had been when I arrived in Thailand, because I was fortunate enough to live in Australia by a beach before I came here. So I was swimming in the sea every day. I was still inflamed. I was still red. And I came here. I didn't really know what to expect. You know, I'd seen Kyle's videos on YouTube. I'd seen a few Instagram posts from Mariette, and I was just ready to give it a try.
So you get here, you go to your induction, the 3-hour marathon thing where you're probably not processing like even 20% of the information.
I cried as well.
Well, I think we all do when we walk into that clinic, because you're seeing people for the first time that look like you and understand your pain. But what did you learn? You're going to be 18 treatments. You're going to go home.
I think the biggest thing for me was when Jay said that it would take me minimum 27 years to heal from TSW without CAP. And I was shocked. I didn't know what to say.
Remind people why it would take 27 years.
Because of the amount I've used, not how long I've used it, the amount I've used had damaged my skin that much that it would take 27 years without CAP for my skin to heal, because of the anti-proliferative responsibilities or principles, effects that steroids have on the body, that it done that much damage, that it would take that much. Because in my head before CAP, I thought, oh, I'd only used them for like 2 years, really. You know, my eczema history doesn't really matter because I recovered from that, but it's not about that. It's about the amount that you use. And I thought, oh, 1 more year, you know, 1 more flare and I'll be healed, 1 more flare and I'll be healed. But it's not the reality of it.
So do you have something to say to people at home that maybe can't get CAP? Like what knowledge did you gain from being here? Because the treatment is 50% of the work.
Yeah.
So what can you share for people that can't get CAP treatment because it's not so readily available?
I would say listen to your body before it starts screaming. So listen to those whispers that it's saying it's something's not right. And you know, if you can sacrifice 2 months without wearing makeup to save you a massive flare and X amount of time of being in a bad stage, then do it, because your body is telling you that it can't handle that inflammation. You want to try and get off the fight and flight mode so that you can get into the recovery and the healing stage. Putting on makeup or drinking alcohol for 1 night isn't worth extending or prolonging your healing journey.
Thank you, Amy. Can you give us, before we sort of close out, something that happened here? You went for all these treatments. Maybe you had a flare. Maybe you've had a really successful period. Something that happened that was like an anecdote that you can share with everybody that you're like, I learned this and I want to tell people that.
There's so much I've learned here. Something that's happened recently actually is I have been reacting to water here, which is really strange. Who reacts to water? I've reacted in the ocean. I've reacted having a shower. And the way I've mitigated to say what that reaction is to, whether it's an allergen or an irritant, is to use the resources I've got around me. So that was taking an antihistamine to know whether it was a histamine related response, which would then tell me it was an allergy or not. Changing my shower filter, just basically putting my detective hat on to go, what is causing this? My body's not liking this and I need to mitigate that.
Because you were getting hives
Yeah.
coming out of the shower.
Yeah, it turned out to be my shower filter. I hadn't replaced the cartridge, and wasn't nice when I opened it.
Talk to us about that sort of detective hat. You know,
It's a process of elimination. So you've got something. So for me, I knew I was reacting as soon as I got out of the shower. So I knew I wasn't reacting before the shower. So it had to be something that I was doing in the shower. So what was I doing in the shower? Well, there's water, there's soap, there's towels, and in my shower I had a shower filter. So that's 4 things I can investigate, and I would eliminate one at a time to then know which of those 1 things am I reacting to, am I not reacting to.
how long did that whole process of elimination take? 1 week, 2 weeks?
It was 1 week-ish. I have a shower every day, so every day I would try something new to be like, okay, what is it? At the beginning, it was the hives. It does go away within 20 minutes, but I still wanted to just make sure that it wasn't allergy response. So the first day I took an antihistamine and basically was be able to tell if it was an allergy response or an irritant response. From that, it was an allergy response. I mean, hives is a
clear indicator.
Yeah, clear indicator that it was an allergy. But I just wanted that peace of mind in my head that, okay, this is an allergy I'm dealing with. And again, I didn't want to just try and ignore it, because then later on it could make it worse and my body would start screaming at me and the reaction would get worse and worse and worse, which I don't want.
Well, I think that's really cool, and it's such a great sort of anecdote to share with people, because it is that reminder of, maybe you can't stay home all day, every day in your irritant-free environment, but you can do this process of elimination and give yourself some reprieve on the margins of doing that process to kind of narrow down what the issue might be. So thank you for sharing that.
No, you're welcome.
Do you have anything else you want to say to people that are watching that are obviously proud of your journey and learning from you?
I just want to say thank you all for the support that I've had. Last year when I was at a really low point, I couldn't have done it without you. And if any of you are at that point, just know you're not alone. We go through this, we fight through this. You're not alone. Reach out, and you've got this. Trust your body. Your body is capable of way more than you think it is.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Thanks.
Appreciate it.